Chosen one, God will silence every doubt tonight. There are moments when your faith is tested not in chaos, but in silence, when the world does not scream against you, but whispers doubts into the quiet corners of your mind, when the voices around you say, "You're not enough," and the voice within hesitates to disagree. But tonight is not one of those nights. No, tonight the heavens have declared that every doubt, every fear, every hesitation, every lie that said you were not chosen will be silenced. Not negotiated with, not argued, silenced. You've walked through fire with a trembling heart but unwavering steps. You've questioned your place, your timing, even your strength, but never your purpose. That flame inside you, though shaken, has never gone out. And because of that, because you didn't quit when quitting was easier, God has drawn a line. Tonight is the night that every what if will crumble. The night when maybe turns into definitely. The night when almost becomes already. Before we dive deep, we ask you to stay with us till the end of this message. Let it pour into you. Let it rewire what the doubts tried to distort. And when you reach the end, write your warmest wish in the comments and include the number 77, a signal to the universe that you're ready to turn the key, to energize your soul and awaken what's been dormant. One wish, one moment of faith, one declaration that your time is now. Now, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and let's dive deeper. Now let's talk about the real reason you're here. You were never called to convince the world of your destiny. You were called to live it. And there is a difference. The world looks for signs, for credentials, for proof. But chosen ones move differently. You don't need to explain what was divinely designed. You don't need to justify what heaven has already signed off on. Every doubt that came at you, from others, from within, came only because of the magnitude of what you carry. People don't doubt the invisible. They doubt what's too powerful to control. And that's what you are. Somewhere along the way, you mistook delay for denial. You thought the silence meant abandonment. But silence is not absence. Silence is preparation. God was preparing the stage, and He needed your doubt to speak first, so that when He moves, there will be no question as to who answered. And when He silences those doubts, it will not be with noise, but with clarity. Your clarity, your evidence, your unstoppable momentum. It will not be with thunder, but with transformation. So many have doubted your path because it didn't look like theirs, because you didn't rush, because you paused to feel, because you questioned things they blindly accepted. And yet, what they don't see is that your hesitation was not weakness, it was discernment. You were never slow, you were sacred. You were moving at the speed of heaven, not at the pace of pressure. Tonight, every voice that questioned you will be silenced, not by your retaliation, but by your revelation. Your fruit is about to speak louder than their forecasts. They said you were delusional, that you were hoping for too much, that you were waiting on something that wasn't coming. But the truth is, they've never seen the kind of faith you've walked in. They've never known what it's like to stand in the darkness with nothing but a promise and still believe. But heaven knows. Heaven kept record. Heaven took note every time you cried and still didn't give up. And tonight, heaven repays. The doubts tried to drown you, but they didn't know you were saltwater born. You were made to float in storms, to rise when pulled under. The louder the doubts screamed, the quieter you became. Not because you lacked response, but because you understood. Some answers are delivered through outcomes, not arguments. You are the outcome. This moment has never been about proving them wrong. It's about proving God right. He didn't choose wrong. He didn't make a mistake. He didn't miscalculate when he chose you. He saw the endurance. He saw the loyalty. He saw the warrior disguised in tears and tenderness. And that's what tonight reveals, that God's choice in you was perfect, no matter who misunderstood it. Let's not ignore how heavy doubt can be, how it creeps in slowly and builds a nest, how it borrows your voice and makes it say things you never believed, how it rewrites your future in lowercase. But the great news? Doubt is loudest just before destiny is proven. Tonight, destiny is not whispering anymore. It's roaring. This is your moment of divine contradiction, where everything that tried to discredit you is being disarmed. Not by force, but by fact. Not by conflict, but by confirmation. God's about to show that what they couldn't see was never invisible. It was just divine. They called you unrealistic, but they'll call you undeniable next. They said you were too much, but now they'll ask for your blueprint. They'll wonder how you knew what they laughed at, how you endured what they wouldn't have survived. But that's the thing. You weren't trying to be seen. You were waiting to be revealed, and the revelation is beginning now. You've had nights full of questions, nights where the ceiling felt like a brick wall, where prayer felt like throwing stones into the ocean. But every stone hit its mark. Every tear watered the very ground you're about to harvest from. The season that felt forgotten was simply fermenting. And now, the wine of your waiting is ready to pour. God will not just silence the doubts around you, He'll silence the ones inside of you. The ones that said, maybe this is too late. The ones that whispered, maybe you missed it. The ones that repeated, you're not enough. Every one of those voices is being turned off by the volume of divine fulfillment. Chosen one, you are not on trial anymore. Heaven has ruled in your favor. The verdict is not guilty of failure, but destined for greatness. Not accused of hoping too much, but credited for not settling for less. Not ridiculed for believing, but rewarded for holding on. Tonight is the night where everything hidden in you begins to rise, and no one, not a single soul, not even you, can stop it. You didn't come this far just to be questioned. You didn't walk through fire, loss, betrayal, and delay just to end up surrounded by doubt. There is a divine reason why your story took longer, why the road was rougher, and why the signs seemed silent. It's because what's being birthed through you is too powerful to be rushed and too sacred to be exposed prematurely. God didn't forget you. He was refining you. Tonight, you're stepping into the part of your journey where the refining ends and the revealing begins. Every moment of uncertainty, every pause that felt like punishment, every door that didn't open, it was all orchestrated to lead you here. And this moment is not just about arrival, it's about alignment. Doubt tried to distract you from the truth, that the pain was not pointless, that the delay was not denial, that the rejection was not ruin. It was redirection. You are not behind, you are hidden. Hidden for protection, hidden for preparation. Hidden so that when you rise, it won't just be a comeback, it will be a coronation. And here's what they won't understand. You never needed the crowd to see you. You only needed God to speak for you. Tonight, He will. He will speak through opportunities that weren't even on your radar, through alignments that feel like miracles, but are really just justice, finally catching up with your journey. He will speak through your resilience, your results, your radiance. And in doing so, every doubt, especially the ones rooted deep within your own heart, will lose their voice. The doubts came because you were breaking patterns. You were becoming something that hadn't been seen before. You weren't just walking in faith. You were rewriting what faith could look like. You were daring to want more than survival. You were daring to believe in overflow, in calling, in legacy. And that kind of belief always attracts doubt, like a shadow. But here's the truth. Shadows only show up where there is light. You are the light. Don't let the shadows fool you. They are not the substance. They are the reaction. And reactions don't define reality. You do, with your belief, with your stillness, with your decision to keep going when the doubts were loud and support was silent. God has seen it all. He saw how you held your tongue when your name was dragged, how you gave when you had little, how you smiled with a breaking heart and still uplifted others. And tonight, that unseen obedience becomes undeniable reward. The doubts said you weren't strong enough, but they didn't know what you survived. They said you weren't worthy, but they didn't know who made you. They said you were lost, but you were only being led. You were never wandering. You were being positioned. Even when you felt like you were falling apart, you were actually falling into place. Every unanswered question was really a hidden answer waiting for the right moment to emerge. And tonight is that moment. The night where everything starts making sense in ways that silence even the deepest internal conflicts. You won't need to defend yourself anymore. Your fruit will speak for you. Your peace will confuse your critics. Your glow will irritate those who thrived on your silence. Because when God elevates you, He doesn't do it quietly. He does it in a way that makes every doubt irrelevant. Let that sink in. You don't have to fight doubt anymore. It's being fought for you. You are not obligated to convince anyone who couldn't see your worth before. You are not responsible for fixing their lack of vision. You are responsible for continuing forward, boldly, unapologetically, divinely. Because you were never made to fit their version of success or timing. You were created to unfold on heaven's clock, and it just struck midnight. Something is happening in the spirit that cannot be reversed. The old labels are being stripped. The old stories are being rewritten. The false narratives are losing oxygen. Every lie they believed about you, including the ones you told yourself in your lowest moments, is being dismantled. You don't have to argue with those voices anymore. You just have to outgrow them. And you already are. Feel the shift. That's the sound of doubt crumbling. That's the sound of clarity roaring to the surface. That's the vibration of heaven testifying on your behalf, saying, "This one didn't fold. This one didn't run. This one stayed faithful. Chosen one, you've earned your name." Not because you were perfect, but because you kept showing up. You kept believing through the shaking. You kept trusting even when the answers didn't come. And that level of trust births miracles. It unlocks what logic cannot touch. And right now, logic is being overridden by favor. Doubt is being replaced by destiny. And questions are bowing to manifestation. You're not just being vindicated, you're being elevated. Not by man, not by status, but by spirit. This rise has nothing to do with approval and everything to do with alignment. You aligned your actions with your calling. You aligned your hope with your faith. And now, heaven is aligning reality with your promise. Let them doubt. Let them misunderstand. Let them wonder how you survived, how you kept going, how you're still standing. You don't owe them an explanation. You are the explanation. You are living, breathing proof that doubt cannot stop destiny. That delay does not equal denial. That even in the deepest confusion, God is still orchestrating beauty behind the curtain. And now, that curtain is lifting. Step forward. Let the light hit what the darkness tried to hide. Let your voice reclaim every narrative that was stolen. Let your life become a loud silence to every doubt that ever dared to speak. Because chosen one, the doubt has nothing left to say. There comes a moment when the storm outside no longer matters, because the calm within finally takes over. You've been listening to the thunder too long. You've been watching the skies, waiting for the lightning to strike as proof of something shifting. But tonight, the silence is louder than any storm. It's the kind of silence that only comes when heaven speaks in ways no one else can hear. But you feel it, in your bones, in your breath, in your knowing. This isn't just about doubts being silenced. It's about your identity being confirmed. For too long, you allowed the voice of hesitation to narrate your journey. You walked with purpose, but paused for permission. You knew you were called, but still looked over your shoulder for confirmation. That ends tonight. There's nothing left to prove. The calling is real. The preparation is complete. The alignment is active. This is not the season where you ask, "Am I ready?" This is the season where you say, "Let's go." Because God doesn't wait for your confidence. He activates it. And what He's activating now is irreversible. The doors opening are not just opportunities, they are declarations. Every one of them speaks, "This one believed. This one waited. This one did not let doubt win." Even in the silence, your soul knew. You knew that something inside of you was bigger than what was happening around you. You felt the weight of greatness, even when nothing seemed to reflect it. You carried vision through valleys. You saw light when everyone else only mentioned darkness. And now, what was invisible to others is undeniable to all. That's why the enemy fought you so hard in your mind. It wasn't your circumstances that were under attack. It was your clarity, your belief, your voice. Because once a chosen one becomes clear about who they are and why they're here, there's no force on this earth that can stop them. The doubt was meant to delay your clarity, but instead, it deepened it. Every question you asked led you back to your core. Every season of confusion sharpened your discernment, and every silence that made you feel abandoned was actually a sacred space where your spirit learned how to speak louder than your fears. Now look at you, still here, still breathing, still walking, still believing. Maybe not the same way you used to. Maybe you've lost some of that youthful idealism, but in its place, something unshakable has grown. Something no doubt can touch. Something that doesn't need to scream to be heard. A knowing. You've grown into the kind of strength that doesn't need validation. The kind of peace that can't be disturbed. The kind of fire that burns cleaner, not louder. The kind of faith that says, even if I don't see it yet, I know it's real. That's the kind of faith that silences doubt without saying a word. And it's that faith God is responding to tonight. This isn't about public recognition. This is about divine recognition. Heaven has kept record of every time you stood in the dark with your hands lifted anyway. Of every time you didn't let fear make your decisions. Of every time you stayed soft in a world that tried to harden you. And tonight, those choices echo into eternity. You weren't just enduring, you were building. Every silent prayer was a brick. Every quiet cry was a foundation. Every act of love, even when it wasn't returned, was a beam in the architecture of your calling. The world didn't see it, but heaven did, and heaven builds slow, but when it moves, it's unshakable. Now the world will see what heaven always knew, and they will wonder how the one they doubted became the one they now can't ignore. Don't be surprised when the ones who mocked your vision come asking for the blueprint. When the same mouths that spread gossip now speak your name with awe, that's not ego, that's evidence. Evidence that the voices of doubt were never stronger than the whispers of destiny. Evidence that God doesn't change his mind about who he chose. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your rise. You don't owe the past a seat at your table. You don't have to carry the voice of your old self into your next season. Let it fall away. Let it dissolve. Let it be replaced by something truer, something bolder, something that knows. I was never lost. I was just being led. And now you are no longer being led quietly. You are being revealed loudly, not because of arrogance, but because of alignment. When what's in you aligns with what's around you, it can no longer be hidden. It demands to be seen, and not even doubt can stop it. The most it can do is try to slow you, but not tonight. Tonight, the delay is done. The doubts are done. The questioning is done. Now is the time for movement, for presence, for walking fully into what was always yours. Because God didn't bring you through the fire to leave you with smoke. He didn't bring you to the edge to watch you fall. He brought you to the threshold of your transformation. And now it's your turn to walk through. Chosen one, the silence you feel isn't emptiness. It's fullness settling in. It's everything that was promised gathering around you. It's the voice of heaven saying, you don't need to fight anymore. Just walk. Walk like it's already done. Walk like you're already free. Walk like the doubt never had power, because it never did. It just sounded loud when you were still unsure. But now, you're not unsure. You're anchored. You're awake. You're activated. And doubt has no power over someone who's finally aware of their truth. The shift doesn't always arrive with a shout. Sometimes it walks in quietly, like a whisper that suddenly drowns out every scream of uncertainty you've ever heard. And tonight, that whisper is truth. There was a time you questioned everything. Your direction, your value, your pace, your voice. You wondered if you were too late, too broken, too different, too much. The noise around you echoed the noise within you, and doubt became a familiar presence. It lingered in the silence. It showed up in delays. It disguised itself as realism and practicality. But doubt is a liar with excellent timing. It knows when to speak, just before your breakthrough, just before your elevation, just before your moment of clarity. That's when it strikes, hoping to convince you to give up just moments before everything aligns. And if you're reading these words tonight, it means you didn't give in. You stood. You stood even while trembling. You walked forward even while second-guessing. You dared to dream again, even after disappointment. That takes divine courage, and heaven honors that kind of courage with clarity, the kind that cannot be faked, the kind that settles your soul even if your situation hasn't fully changed yet. Tonight, the shift doesn't need to shout, because you're finally still enough to hear it clearly. The doubts once filled the room, because your spirit was still echoing old stories. You didn't realize it, but you kept rehearsing the scripts that other people handed you. You're too slow. You're not enough. You missed your window. This isn't for people like you. And because those voices were loud for so long, you started believing that silence meant agreement, as if God wasn't speaking simply because he wasn't loud. But God isn't loud when he's building something eternal. He works in depth, not in drama. He doesn't prove his presence by noise. He proves it by transformation. And when that transformation takes root, everything changes, even if nothing has changed yet on the outside. That's the power of divine clarity. It's not about control. It's about knowing. knowing that you don't need to beg for what's already yours, knowing that you don't need to chase what's divinely aligned, knowing that doubt is no longer your language because destiny speaks louder. There was always a reason the journey took longer, because what God is doing through you isn't ordinary. And ordinary doesn't require this kind of fire. Ordinary doesn't demand this kind of inner work. Ordinary isn't challenged by this level of spiritual resistance. You were never being punished. You were being prepared. Prepared to carry something greater than your own comfort. Prepared to become an example that others will one day point to and say, they made it. They held on. They didn't let doubt define them. You will not be known by your questions. You will be known by your impact. Because, chosen one, when you walk in divine timing, your very presence becomes an answer to their confusion, to their disbelief, to their doubt, and even more, to your own past self, the one who cried on the floor, not knowing how this would ever come together, the one who almost gave up. That version of you is about to witness the fruit of your own endurance, and the doubt that tried to kill your voice will now sit silently while you speak with a power that cannot be denied. No more second-guessing, no more trying to convince people who were never meant to understand you. No more shrinking to fit narratives you've outgrown. No more internal debates about whether you're worthy. You are. Whether you're chosen, you are. Whether you're enough, you always were. And God is proving that tonight in ways even your doubts can't explain. It's not just one miracle, or one door, or one moment. It's a flood, a divine wave of alignment that washes away every lingering shadow of uncertainty. You won't even need to argue with your inner critic anymore. It will lose its job. It cannot speak where clarity reigns. It cannot shout over peace. It cannot follow you into the spaces where God is calling you now. You've outgrown it. The rooms you're entering no longer make room for your insecurities. They can't survive there. They have no air. Because this version of you, the one you've been quietly becoming in the silence, is too powerful, too focused, too centered to carry dead weight. And doubt is dead weight. You don't need it for protection anymore. You don't need it to feel safe. You don't need it to keep you from failing, because you've learned that even failure can't kill what's destined. Even detours can't delay what's aligned. Even silence can't stop what's spiritual. That's why you are unshakable now. Not because you've got all the answers, but because you've released the need to have them. You've learned to rest in the unknown, to trust the nudge, to move when God says move, not when the crowd agrees, or the timing seems convenient, or the path is obvious. You don't need obvious anymore. You have obedience. You don't need applause. You have assurance. You don't need guarantees. You have grace. That's what silences doubt. Not the absence of fear, but the presence of faith that walks anyway. And you, chosen one, are walking with power now. It's strange, isn't it? How all your life you were made to believe that you had to work harder to be seen, speak louder to be heard, try more to be accepted. You were told to earn your place, to prove your worth, to hustle for permission. And that noise, that expectation, that exhaustion, it grew roots, deep ones, the kind that wrapped around your confidence and choked it just when you needed it most. But here's what they didn't tell you. Being chosen isn't earned, it's recognized. And tonight, heaven recognizes you fully, clearly, loudly. You don't need another certificate, another applause, another echo of approval from broken voices who never understood the depth of your becoming. You are not here to be validated by people who cannot see past their own limitations. You are not here to fit inside their molds. You are here to break them. The doubt in your path wasn't a curse. It was a filter. It filtered out the distractions. It revealed what was real. It tested what would stand and what would fall. It stripped away the layers that looked strong but couldn't survive the fire. It taught you to listen for the voice within instead of chasing validation without. And that voice, your inner knowing, is stronger now than ever before. Not because you silenced the world, but because you stopped giving it the authority to speak louder than your spirit. That shift changes everything. But God isn't loud when He's building something eternal. He works in depth, not in drama. He doesn't prove His presence by noise. He proves it by transformation. And when that transformation takes root, everything changes, even if nothing has changed yet on the outside. That's the power of divine clarity. It's not about control. It's about knowing. Knowing that you don't need to beg for what's already yours. Knowing that you don't need to chase what's divinely aligned. Knowing that doubt is no longer your language because destiny speaks louder. There was always a reason the journey took longer. Because what God is doing through you isn't ordinary. And ordinary doesn't require this kind of fire. Ordinary doesn't demand this kind of inner work. Ordinary isn't challenged by this level of spiritual resistance. You were never being punished. You were being prepared. Prepared to carry something greater than your own comfort. Prepared to become an example that others will one day point to and say, they made it. They held on. They didn't let doubt define them. You will not be known by your questions. You will be known by your impact. Because chosen one, when you walk in divine timing, your very presence becomes an answer to their confusion, to their disbelief, to their doubt, and even more, to your own past self, the one who cried on the floor not knowing how this would ever come together, the one who almost gave up. That version of you is about to witness the fruit of your own endurance. And the doubt that tried to kill your voice will now sit silently while you speak with a power that cannot be denied. No more second-guessing, no more trying to convince people who were never meant to understand you. No more shrinking to fit narratives you've outgrown. No more internal debates about whether you're worthy. You are. Whether you're chosen, you are. Whether you're enough, you always were. And God is proving that tonight in ways even your doubts can't explain. It's not just one miracle or one door or one moment. It's a flood, a divine wave of alignment that washes away every lingering shadow of uncertainty. You won't even need to argue with your inner critic anymore. It will lose its job. It cannot speak where clarity reigns. It cannot shout over peace. It cannot follow you into the spaces where God is calling you now. You've outgrown it. The rooms you're entering no longer make room for your insecurities. They can't survive there. They have no air. Because this version of you, the one you've been quietly becoming in the silence, is too powerful, too focused, too centered to carry dead weight. And doubt is dead weight. You don't need it for protection anymore. You don't need it to feel safe. You don't need it to keep you from failing. Because you've learned that even failure can't kill what's destined. Even detours can't delay what's aligned. Even silence can't stop what's spiritual. That's why you are unshakable now. Not because you've got all the answers, but because you've released the need to have them. You've learned to rest in the unknown, to trust the nudge, to move when God says, move. Not when the crowd agrees, or the timing seems convenient, or the path is obvious. You don't need obvious anymore. You have obedience. You don't need applause. You have assurance. You don't need guarantees. You have grace. That's what silences doubt. Not the absence of fear, but the presence of faith that walks anyway. And you, chosen one, are walking with power now. It's strange, isn't it? How all your life you were made to believe that you had to work harder to be seen, speak louder to be heard, try more to be accepted. You were told to earn your place, to prove your worth, to hustle for permission. And that noise, that expectation, that exhaustion, it grew roots, deep ones, the kind that wrapped around your confidence and choked it just when you needed it most. But here's what they didn't tell you. Being chosen isn't earned, it's recognized. And tonight, heaven recognizes you, fully, clearly, loudly. You don't need another certificate, another applause, another echo of approval from broken voices who never understood the depth of your becoming. You are not here to be validated by people who cannot see past their own limitations. You are not here to fit inside their molds. You are here to break them. The doubt in your path wasn't a curse. It was a filter. It filtered out the distractions. It revealed what was real. It tested what would stand and what would fall. It stripped away the layers that looked strong but couldn't survive the fire. It taught you to listen for the voice within instead of chasing validation without. And that voice, your inner knowing, is stronger now than ever before. Not because you silenced the world, but because you stopped giving it the authority to speak louder than your spirit. That shift changes everything. Now, you can walk into any room and no longer wonder if you belong. You can take up space without apology. You can speak truth without second guessing. Because you know now, you are not here by accident. You were planted, not misplaced, and you've been growing in secret so that now, when you bloom, it's not just beautiful, it's unstoppable. Doubt doesn't know what to do with someone like you anymore, because it thrives on indecision. It feeds on fear. It whispers in the cracks of your confidence. But there are no more cracks. There is no more space for it to hide. You've sealed those places with wisdom, with trust, with the kind of holy resilience that doesn't flinch when storms rise. Doubt expected you to break. And yet, here you are, rising. You didn't just survive the silence, you mastered it. You learned to sit in the questions without needing immediate answers. You learned to breathe when everything around you told you to panic. You learned to stand still when doubt tried to convince you that motion equals progress. You found peace in presence, strength in stillness, clarity in chaos. That's power. Not the kind the world worships, but the kind that heaven trusts. And make no mistake, you are being trusted now with more. More purpose, more reach, more truth. Not because you demanded it, but because you proved that your foundation could carry it. Even when you were afraid, you didn't fold. Even when you were overlooked, you didn't shrink. Even when you were misunderstood, you didn't betray yourself just to be understood. And now, the reward is not just coming. It's already here. It's you. You are the reward. The healed you, the steady you, the you that no longer needs to explain your calling to anyone who doesn't carry your spirit. The you that doesn't flinch when God moves in silence. Because now you understand. Silence is not absence, it's strategy. Doubt always assumed that silence meant delay or denial. But tonight, that belief dies. Because now you know, silence is sacred. It's where God writes the final lines of a story without letting the enemy read them. It's where heaven places the last piece of the puzzle without alerting the crowd. It's where the chosen are shaped before they're revealed. And the reveal is now. Every voice that said, "You're not ready." Every moment that said, "You've gone too far off course." Every lie that said, maybe you made all of this up, silenced. By truth, by grace, by presence. You were never wrong to believe. You were just ahead of your own timeline. But now, your timeline is catching up with your vision, and everything that once made you doubt yourself will become proof of how real your knowing always was. You knew, even when you couldn't explain it, even when you couldn't point to the fruit, even when your own heart whispered, maybe I'm crazy to think this way. Still, you stayed. You prayed when no answers came. You held hope when it felt naive. You sowed light when the world offered shadows. And now, it's time to reap. Not because of luck, not because of chance, but because you were willing to walk with God through the chapters that made no sense, just to get to the one that makes everything make sense. And here's the miracle: you haven't even seen the full unveiling yet. This is just the beginning of the silence working for you. The more you walk forward, the louder your presence will echo. Not because you speak, but because you exist in divine confidence. Doubt has no vocabulary for someone who walks with divine timing. It can try to speak, but you won't hear it the same anymore. What once shook you will now strengthen you. What once made you retreat will now make you rise. What once made you question yourself will now confirm your purpose. That's the transformation that's happening now. Quietly, eternally, undeniably. Chosen one, this is no longer about hoping the doubt stops. It's about knowing that it already has. It just hasn't realized it yet. But soon, the world will. There's a stillness in the air tonight that doesn't feel like nothing is happening. It feels like everything is. It's the kind of stillness that follows thunder. Not because the storm has won, but because it has passed. The kind of stillness that comes not from absence, but from arrival. Something divine has landed in your atmosphere. It didn't need a spotlight. It didn't need permission. It just needed your readiness. And tonight, you are finally, unquestionably, unshakably ready. All of heaven has leaned in, not to watch you suffer, not to test your limits, but to witness the moment the doubts that once tried to devour you now vanish at the feet of your alignment. There is no fear in this moment, no noise, no shame, no begging for proof, no desperate cries for clarity, just knowing, a holy, quiet, radiant knowing that the pain wasn't wasted, that the silence was sacred, that the questions refined you, that the delays were disguised deliveries, that every ounce of doubt that tried to destroy you was only ever a mirror, showing you where you were about to grow next. You did not get lucky, chosen one. You got aligned. And when alignment shows up, everything that once spoke over you must now fall silent, because there's no argument left, no accusation that can stick, no shadow that can hide you anymore. God has placed you in the exact position you once feared was too far, too late, too damaged to reach. And now, you realize, the entire time you were trying to arrive, you were already becoming. The doubt wasn't evidence of failure, it was proof of importance. It showed up not because you were weak, but because what's inside you is dangerous to everything untrue. It came to distract you, delay you, drown you in questions, but it didn't win. You're here. You're still here. And more than that, you're clear. Clear in who you are. Clear in what you're carrying. Clear in how you move. Clear in how you see. Clear in your silence, your power, your purpose. This is the version of you that your younger self always hoped existed. The version that does not beg, does not doubt, does not shrink. The version that walks with heaven in your step and divine fire in your voice. And now, when people ask, "How did you get here?" you won't say, "Because I knew all along." You'll say, "Because I trusted, through not knowing." That is the highest form of faith. And faith, chosen one, is louder than any doubt. Faith doesn't need perfect timing. It creates timing. Faith doesn't need visible proof. It becomes the evidence. Faith doesn't wait for things to feel good. It moves when God says move. And that's exactly what you've done. So now, don't look back for the voices that once made you question everything. They were never qualified to measure your destiny. They were never equipped to understand your dimensions. Their silence now is not a lack of support. It's the sound of defeat. Because doubt has no seat at the table of someone who knows who they are. And you, dear soul, know. You know that you were never crazy to hope. You know that you were never wrong to keep going. You know that even when it looked like nothing was working, the energy, the prayer, the alignment were working behind the scenes, preparing the moment that is now unfolding. Everything is unfolding. Doors you thought were closed are swinging open like they were never locked. People who once dismissed you now feel drawn without explanation. Resources that felt delayed are flowing with no resistance. Answers are arriving without questions. And most importantly, the doubt that once consumed your every step has gone silent. Not because it surrendered, but because it was defeated by your decision to keep walking. You didn't need a sign in the sky. You didn't need the crowd to believe first. You didn't wait for the world to give you permission. You believed, and that was enough. You declared your truth, while the echoes of old doubt still rang in the back of your mind. And now, they are gone. That's what happens when the chosen one stops waiting for confirmation and starts walking like it's already done. Because it is already done. The version of you that was once afraid to speak is now being sought after for wisdom. The version that was once overlooked now carries a presence that cannot be ignored. The version that once whispered, "Maybe I'm not enough," now walks with the truth carved into their very soul. I've always been more than enough. God did not choose you by accident. He chose you because you were the one who would hold the line when everyone else dropped it. You were the one who would wrestle with the unknown and still rise in truth. You were the one who would carry something bigger than you without losing yourself to it. You were the one who would face every lie and silence it with your living. So walk now. Not as someone still hoping it's true. Walk as someone who knows the truth is walking with them. You are not stepping into possibility. You are stepping into fulfillment. No more explaining. No more convincing. No more wondering. Just being. Being the light. Being the sign. Being the answer. The final whisper of doubt has already faded. And in its place, a voice you've always known speaks clearly now. It's your time. It's always been your time.